Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Wittman, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank our witnesses for joining us today. If we watched this past weekend, we really shouldn't be shocked that the CCP had taken the brazen effort to fly a spy balloon over the United States. We've seen behavior by the CCP, purchase of agricultural lands, purchase of strategic lands around military bases. We look too at their recruiting of intellectual capacity from the United States to China. We see too the incredible importation of illicit fentanyl here to the United States and the havoc that it's wreaked on our communities. This committee understands very clearly both the near, medium, and long-term effects of Chinese aggression. The challenge for us is to figure out what do we do in a timely way that matches the capability and capacity that China is building right now. I believe that our force structure as we have it today is misaligned to the challenges that are not only in front of us, but that are emerging from China. Admiral Harris, I wanted to get your thought on critical weapon systems for the United States. In your experience in the Indo-Pacific AOR, in your understanding of Beijing's strategic intent, you said in your opening statement you've seen things morphed in the past 5 years to a much more aggressive stance and an increased capability. Do you think the Department of Defense in their planning and budgeting is doing so in such a way that addresses the near-term threat from Beijing?
Thanks, Congressman. I think so to the degree that we all have to realize that, you know, the ships that we're building today, for example, are going to be around for 30 or 40 years. You know, the ships and the airplanes and the tanks or whatever that we use to fight the PRC have been extant now for a decade or longer. So these things take time to build, and they take time to field and to train for it. So we have the military that we have that we're going to use to defend America against the PRC or any other threat. We have it. Whether it could have been better, whether different ships could have been built or whatever, it is what it is, and that's the force that we have. That said, I'm pleased with some of the improvements that I've read about, shipbuilding in the Navy, for example, with the new frigates that are coming online, the new aircraft carriers that are coming online, and all of that. It takes a long time, and for some reason, I couldn't understand it when I was in uniform either. It seems to take longer than it should to develop and field a new weapons system. I do think that the most important capability that we have to get right is a nuclear deterrent. That's the first thing. It's also the most important, most expensive thing.
Well, Admiral Harris, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the speed of relevance is critical today. We cannot take years to develop, whether it's software or advanced weapon systems, whatever it may be. It has to be months. And unfortunately, the history shows us recently that that's not the case. We see 2 years for the Navy to make a decision on the next generation jamming efforts. We see 2 years to work through the FA-18F's production, totaling about 20 jets. You know, those things take much too long. The TR-3 upgrade for our F-35s, again, met with General Brown today, another delay. You know, we are not in the realm of where we can survive taking years to do things. It has to be done in months. Can you give us your perspective? And you talked a little bit about pacing on modernization, pacing on developing and implementing emerging technologies to counter Beijing and the things that they're doing. I said at the Reagan National Defense Forum, China starts out with a blank sheet of paper. Our process to do acquisition in the Pentagon takes an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, and you have to use a microscope to read the words on it and understand the flow chart.
Well, we follow, and rightly so, you know, law, regulation, and policy. The PRC is able to insert themselves in the middle of our long acquisition cycle through theft and cyber espionage. Yeah. So they get a jump on us because they're not bound by our laws, regulation, and policy. I do believe that if we're serious about China, our entire country needs to move faster, as you said.
Yeah, very good. Dr. Sisson?
Just quickly, Representative, I don't worry about lethality. for the U.S. military right now. I worry about resilience. And so if we're going to accelerate development in any particular area, that's where I would go first.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.